guys, it's like 2018. Shouldn't you guys just let it go?
No! Sick and tired of that stupid land moron. It's pissing me off. I just can't stand them anymore. I'm gonna watch some TV. Holy shit! That's a Super Game Boy! A real life Super Game Boy! Guys, this is so awesome. You can actually play your old Game Boy games on your Super Nintendo. So it's like your Game Boy games on your TV. That is so fucking awesome. But where did this come from?
Yeah, I figured you would like that. You like classic consoles, and you still have your Super Nintendo.
Damn! Thanks a lot, Brian. This is fucking awesome. I really appreciate it. But, how did you get into my house?
Don't worry about it. Now, how about you plug that sucker in and play some games?
Oh, hell yeah! I can't wait to plug this sucker in and play some Game Boy games. Yeah, this is Mark Rodriguez here, and of course that's Brian from Another Terrible Idea, and today we're going to talk about Super Game Boy games. But first, I need that wire that connects from the Super Nintendo to the TV, because without that wire, I can't use my Super Nintendo, I can't record the game footage, I can't do the episode. So, damn, where have I put that wire? I gotta find it. It's gotta be around here somewhere. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Whoa. Whoa. Ah! Oh. Oh, God. Oh, man. I got way too many shirts. I gotta start giving some of these guys away. What the hell? But on the bright side, I got the wires. Now I can play the SNES. Now that we got the wires, we got the tools, we got the talent, let's play some Super Game Boy.
Alright, first off, let's see how the Super Game Boy works.
Alright guys, so the Super Game Boy is very easy to set up. All you need is one of the original Game Boy cartridges from back in the day, and of course the Super Game Boy itself. As you notice, it looks like a Super Nintendo game pack with an extra hole in there, so you just get the Game Boy cartridge, pop it in the hole right there, and then you just pop in your Super Nintendo like you would any other Super Nintendo game, and kabam! Game Boy games on your Super Nintendo on your TV. Let's check it out.
The Super Game Boy allows you to add borders around the gameplay to make up for the difference in resolution between the Game Boy and the Super Nintendo.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know about these extra backgrounds. The cat one's pretty cute. Now, if you guys bought Mario Paint and still own the SNES mouse and the tablet that came with it back in the day, you can actually use it to draw in and edit in your own backgrounds, and it's a lot easier using the mouse than the SNES controller. I did this little VGM background here, it's the best I could do with the SNES controller, but hey, it works for me.
Later games that were made specifically to work with the Super Game Boy added even extra features. Special borders, different color palettes, even a really high-tech stuff if you look at the Space Invaders cartridge, which essentially almost has a full Super Nintendo version built in to the Game Boy cartridge. Really advanced stuff for the time.
Alright guys, now we got everything set up, let's get ready. Let's start it off with Megaman 2 for the Game Boy. Let's check it out. Released in 1992 by Capcom, Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy follows the classic tradition of the original series as the super fighting robot must defeat Dr. Wily's evil plans. Like most of the games in the series, you'll fight through 8 different robot masters, each armed with their own special weapon. Once you beat one of them, you can gain their weapon and use it against the rest of them. Now the Game Boy series in particular tends to use 4 robot masters from one game and 4 from another. This particular game's plot involves Dr. Wily stealing a time machine called the Time Skimmer and escaping to the future for his evil plans. The game starts out with you choosing between 4 robot masters from the NES version of Mega Man 2. You have Woodman, Airman, Metal Man, and Crash Man, who was renamed as Clash Man in this game for some reason, to take down. And luckily, the stages are not as difficult here as they were in the NES version.
Oh man, I guess it's not as easy as I remembered it.
Along with getting their weapons, you can also earn the Rush Coil, Rush Jet, and Rush Marine. The Rush Coil is basically like a trampoline and helps you reach power-ups in out-of-reach places. The Rush Jet lets you fly through long gaps, and the Rush Marine makes it easier for you to travel through underwater stages. After defeating the first round of Robot Masters, you head into Dr. Wily's castle and must face 4 other Robot Masters from the NES version of Mega Man 3. This group consists of Top Man, Needle Man, Magnet Man, and Hard Man. Afterwards, you face Quint, a robot from the future who was actually a future version of Mega Man that was corrupted by Dr. Wily. After you beat him, you face the final Wily Castle stage where you take down the mad scientist himself. This game is a lot of fun, and despite me having to get used to it again after not playing it for a couple of years, it's still pretty easy when you get the hang of it. I know a lot of people like the Mega Man games due to their challenge, but this is probably the easiest Mega Man game I've ever played. The Rush Jet and the Rush Marine lets you skip through parts that deal with disappearing blocks and those annoying insta-kill spikes. So these particular areas that you normally would have been stuck in just dying over and over again, you can just breeze past them thanks to Rush. Some of the Robot Masters also go down a lot faster here than they do in the NES version. It literally takes only 4 shots of Metal Man's Metal Blades to take down Woodman. Only 4 shots. Like, it doesn't get easier than that. This game, though, is still one of my favorite Game Boy games, and I used to play it all the time during my flights and road trips. Now, it comes to my understanding the people behind the programming of this game are not the same guys that worked on the other Game Boy Mega Man games, so I don't know if the other games are as easy as this one is, but I guess I'll find out someday.
Well, that takes care of Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy. What do you have for us, Brian?
Here's Castlevania The Adventure, or The Castlevania Adventure, depending upon how you read the logo, from Konami. This was released in North America December 15, 1989, so only a few months after the Game Boy was launched here, and it was followed in 1991 with the sequel, Castlevania II Belmont's Revenge. It was also later updated and re-released as Castlevania The Adventure Rebirth for the Wii. This was Konami's first shot at a Game Boy game, and it kind of shows in places. The game plays like your fairly generic action platformer, but it does carry over a little of the flavor of the Castlevania games from its console cousins. You've got the vampire killer whip, the candles, even that uncomfortable plodding walk that seems even slower here thanks to the limitations of both the hardware and Konami's limited experience coding for it. One relatively bright spot, though, is the music. Sure, it's tinny, as to be expected, but there are some decent tracks that do help to reinforce the Castlevania vibe. This isn't a game I had growing up. I only picked it up within the last few years, and honestly didn't even really play it much until I went into this review. Due to the slow controls, it does take some getting used to. The first time I gave it a go-round, I quit on the section before the first boss because I couldn't quite time the jumps, and I just gave up. I had better ways to spend my time. But I gave it another chance, thinking of how I would have played this back in the day. I had a lot fewer game choices then, and I had a lot more free time. So, with that in mind, I decided to sit down and approach Castlevania The Adventure with a bit more patience. And, believe it or not, it worked. I had to adjust to the controls and pacing. I had to die a few times to remember where enemies would spawn and what their patterns were. Stage 3, with spiked walls that try and crush you from various angles, can get especially tricky. But I got used to it, and it was pretty fun. The game ends after you defeat Dracula in the form of a giant bat in Stage 4, so it's a pretty brief game. But overall, I could see this being a decent game for the time, and one that I would have sunk a lot of time into in the years before I had a console in my own room.
The next game we're checking out is Kwirk. Released in 1990 by Acclaim Entertainment, the most memorable thing about this guy was his appearance as a member of the Power Team, a cartoon that was part of a video game review show called Video Power. This show, as well as GamePro TV, helped inspire Johnny and I to eventually create Video Game Masters.
Alright, I've been waiting a long time to play this game after watching the cartoon back in the 90s. Let's check it out.
The game's plot involves Quirk's girlfriend Tammy Tomato gone missing, and it's up to our little Tomato to go rescue her through various puzzles. The game has 3 main modes and 2 different perspectives. The main story, such as it is, takes place during the Going Up mode, where you solve puzzles in a room-by-room basis. You can choose what floor to start on and the level of difficulty. beat all 30 floors to rescue Tammy Tomato. If you get stuck on these puzzles, there is a back feature, which is basically like the undo button, and a redo feature to start the puzzle over. Heading out lets you choose how many rooms you can run through, and you can time yourself to get a good score. You can still do the redo if you're stuck, but you can't use the undo button. There's also a versus mode, which is basically heading out but for 2 players. The first player to get past the barrage of puzzle rooms wins. Since this mode is intended for both players to view their own screen on their individual Game Boys using the Game Link cable, this mode doesn't work on the Super Game Boy. The puzzles of the game consist of navigating through the rooms and getting to the exit on the other side. From here, you'll have to figure out the mechanics of the turnstiles, as well as being able to push blocks of different sizes to fill up holes in different ways. In the going up mode, some rooms bring in some of Kwirk's veggie buddies, like Pete the Pepper and Curly Carrot. You can switch control between Kwirk and your buddy to help get past some puzzles that need more than one person to solve. All the modes can be played in 2 perspectives. The diagonal view is more of a normal type view, and the bird's eye view is viewing from above. I kinda like the diagonal view better though. Kwirk is a lot of fun, and once you get used to the puzzle mechanics, this game is very hard to put down. I guess my only gripes here are the music and sounds. The music is way too cute for my taste. Like, it's not bad, but it's just way too cutesy-wootsy, especially for an awesome tomato wearing 90s shades and that cool arrogant smirk. And the music does get annoying very quickly. Like, I understand it was a kid's game, has to be all cute, but I would have preferred a more catchy beat, a more awesome soundtrack, you know? And I also could have done without that annoying sound effect whenever Kwirk gets stuck up against a wall or some kind of barrier that impedes his progress. And since this does happen a lot, I mean, you're going to be hearing this sound throughout the whole game, especially when you're stuck in a puzzle. Like, we really could have done without any sound effect for Kwirk just running up against a wall. Now, I do enjoy the game, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun. I especially like the heading out, where you get all the different puzzles in a row, and you're trying to kind of, I guess, test out your brain, trying to get past through these puzzles as fast as you can. And I do also enjoy having the chance to finally play this game for this review after watching Kwirk in the cartoon show back in the day, but I do play with the volume down, especially when I'm stuck in a puzzle.
Heiankyo Alien from Meldak is one of the first Game Boy games I had. As Tetris made the Game Boy popular for action puzzle games, and various other titles made it popular for ports of older PC games, Heiankyo Alien must have seemed like the perfect fit for the system. Originally published as a PC game in Japan in 1979, and then later as an arcade title in 1980, this version was released for the Game Boy in 1990. You play as a policeman sometime during the high-end period in Japan, who must protect the city by burying an onslaught of invading aliens. And that's not a euphemism or anything, that's literally your only method of combat. You dig holes, and whenever an alien happens to drop into one, you fill it back up and trap them. If you don't do it fast enough though, they will crawl out, continuing to chase you and ruining your poor holes. A few different aliens here behave slightly differently, kind of like the ghosts in Pac-Man, but whose moves are not quite so easily anticipated. And the map layout changes every few stages. Certain blocks will fade in and out, meaning you sometimes have to be really thoughtful about your hole placement. What's really cool about the cartridge though, is it actually comes with 2 different versions of the game. The new, or souped up Game Boy version, and the old, which is the port of the PC original. Of the 2, you'll almost certainly spend most of your time in the new, as the graphics and gameplay are vastly superior. The older version, it's there mostly as a curiosity. For me at least. Maybe an older Japanese consumer, a salaryman or something, who remembered playing the PC or arcade originals, maybe would have gotten a little nostalgia kick out of this mode, but for me, it was never my choice when I slotted this one into my Game Boy. Heiankyo Alien is a simple and fun action puzzler. While I don't frequently see it out and about in the retro shops in the area, it's easily found on eBay for just a few bucks, and it's worth checking out if you get a chance. Great episode, guys. Thanks for having me on again. We covered a lot on the Super Game Boy, but we didn't talk at all about the Game Boy player that I was using to play on the GameCube. I don't have a Super Nintendo.
Wait a minute, there's an adapter that can play Game Boy Color games on the GameCube? Like, when did this come out? What?
Oh, wait, you can play old Game Boy games on the GameCube?
That's right. The Game Boy player actually lets you play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games on your TV through the GameCube. I don't have my Super Nintendo anymore, and I've been using that to film the games for this episode. I'll tell you more about it next time.
Okay, I guess we'll find out in the next episode.
I'm Brian from Another Terrible Idea. On behalf of Mark and Johnny, I'll go ahead and say thanks for watching and see you next time.
Mark!
More!
Mark?
What? You got what? Oh yeah, you're gonna see what?
Alright, cut. That's the end, guys. That's the end of the day. Come on, let's just get this done.
Alright, man. Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool. I can like feel the anger, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go grab some beers.
Oh yeah, want some sushi, man?
Yeah,
All
sushi's
right.
not good.
Yeah, I'm buying.